Alright. So I'm gonna say no crazy. Yeah, how Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem, the orders of the apostles and elders, great no son of well. Shalom to those who elect. Alright, where Hebrew Israelites come out every week to prophesy the downfall of this kingdom according to the Holy Bible. Alright? As it told you in Jeremiah 28 and 8, the Heavenly Father set up a prophet with basically his mouthpiece to basically speak to the people. Mainly it would always start with the nation Israel, because when you read from the book of Genesis to Revelation, it always speaks about the Israelites, alright? So now we're out here in these last days to basically prophesy the downfall of this kingdom according to the prophecies of the Bible, alright? And we're currently in the midst of the end of the world, alright? And when I say the end of the world in terms of the rulers of this world as it stands right now.
Yeah. 1 Thessalonians 5:1. For if the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. Yeah, that's like what the brother said, the end of the world. Because if you're just in the world, and you hear the end of the world, you're going to be thinking like, okay, the planet Earth is blowing up, or something along that line, man. A fucking meteor's gonna rock up and hit the planet Earth. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a shift in who has power over the Earth. Because contrary to popular belief, the world isn't ruled by the mob. It's not ruled by the so-called democratic process. The world is ruled by people who hold power, and they're in high up positions, and they hold sway and influence over the guys that call themselves the leaders of the world. And basically, those guys that are in power, it's coming to the time, the what do they call it? It's coming to the twilight of their rule, man. It's coming to that shit's coming to an end, and we're gonna have that new kingdom rise up, which is basically gonna be a kingdom of the Hebrew Israelites, who are the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. And these things are not known. These things aren't common facts that you're just gonna have any Tom, Dick, and Harry on the street knowing about. These things are small gems that have basically been made known to a very small amount of people, and that's why, by and large, it's gonna take everyone by a shock and surprise. But what does it say? Verse 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Yeah, when everyone says peace and safety, because that's the thing, is the main goal and objective of everyone in this world. They're basically looking to enjoy and pleasure themselves as much as they possibly can within the current system. They're looking to live and have a so-called good life, where they can, go on holiday, they can enjoy, go and enjoy certain forms of entertainment, get married, have some kids, whatever the fuck. They're looking to enjoy themselves, but this right now where we're at, this is a crisis point, man. This is basically a point where there's going to be a lot of conflict. There's going to be a lot of so-called systems, ways the world is run. That shit's going to get completely turned upside down, and that's something you've already seen throughout the last since the pandemic kicked in. Things that would have, if you told people in 2019 how it was going to be in 2021, they would have laughed at you. They'd have been like, yo, you crazy? What, man couldn't leave the house? You're getting arrested if you leave the house. People were like, huh? But that became normal as hell. People are now just like, yo, you should be finding them more. But it says, but ye brethren are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye children, but ye brethren are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. Ye are not of the night nor of darkness. Yeah, that's the thing. The present rulers, those, let's say Job 9:24. Just grab it. Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. So the wicked beareth rule over the earth. The wicked has been given that rule, and that wicked is known as Esau Edom, man. The so-called white man. Esau Edom is the identity he's trying to run from. Because as far as in the scriptures, when you deal with the wicked, Amos highlights and puts a big crosshairs on Esau Edom as the wicked. That's why they've created this new allure of a European or a so-called white person, or all these various different identities, an American. These things have basically been made as a way to escape from that identity as Esau. Because when you deal with Esau, his destiny is known. What's going to happen to him at the end? He's going to get a fierce, legendary judgment. Which you talk to people that call themselves Bible scholars, a lot of them will say like, oh well, Esau has done away with him, blah blah blah, in thingy AD, then they came to an end. But where as far as the prophecies go, there's prophecies that have yet to be fulfilled. Go back in Thessalonians. So it says, "What therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us who of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet the hope of salvation." Yeah. So we're basically meant to be watchmen, guards essentially, onto the elect, onto all Israel. But only the elect are the ones that are going to take heed.
Israel, the Most High.
Yeah. Not all Israel is Israel. They're basically that small portion that's been left off. That's who we're to guard onto, and that's why we'll go into current events, go into news, what's going down, and line up with the prophecies. Because why? This is a time when prophecies flying off the handle, man. Prophecies everywhere you look, and that lets you know, hey, this thing is going to be very short. It's not, you ain't sitting there saying, oh, whenever you talk to someone in the church, well, they always say, like, oh, it's going to be like 50 years, it's going to be just long enough for them to live and die so-called peacefully, and then, it's just like whatever afterwards. It says, but let us who of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, for an helmet, the hope of salvation. For the Most High hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Yeah, that's how it's going to be going down. What these prophecies, the way these prophecies are moving, it's that's going to be completely unexpected. Because most people now, the way that, especially even when you deal with this pandemic situation, people are thinking that the max is really just that's just thrown any need for they think now it's just everything's gonna just continue as things were before. Everything's gonna go back. Everything's gonna be at peace. But that peace, how long is it gonna run? Because that's the thing is, when you deal with all the powers that the governments over the world have gained, they're they don't go anywhere. They're gonna. It's like being able to lock down. When it first happened, it was kind of like, yo, this is crazy. Like, is this even legal? Can these guys do this? Now it's been done, and people are like deal with lockdown as a normal by and large. Like Australia, them guys got re-lockdown, and you got a few people protesting it. But compared to like the actual portion of the whole population, it's a real small amount of people that are actually kicking up a fuss. By and large, most people are just like, well, whatever, we'll deal with it. And that's the same mindset over here. Everyone's in that asleep, not really thinking about much, like just kind of like, everything's going to be fine. We read this, Jeremiah 16 and 14. Therefore, behold, the day is come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, Yahweh liveth, that brought that brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but the Lord Yahweh liveth, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north. And that's the scale that's going to be on. As you go back to Exodus, the story is funny. The story of Exodus, that's one that's almost it's commonplace. You mentioned Moses, you mentioned Egypt, you mentioned the plagues. Most people know, oh yeah, you know, da 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 da. They'll even know a few plagues offhand. Like these things are commonly known because it's such a story that's been pushed out, and because of scriptures as well, it's been pushed out. So that's something that's known. But this is going to be on the same scale, where it's going to be, and it's going to really be where people stop talking about Moses, the story of Egypt, and how Egypt got taken out, and then instead it's going to be talking about the sides of the north. From the land of the north. Oh, I read it. Yeah. The brought the children out of the land of the north. That's what it's going to be talking about instead. Everyone's going to be talking about how Israel was saved out of America. You go to, what is it? Wisdom of Solomon 5 has said the strangeness of their salvation. Because the method by which Israel is going to be saved out of it, it's going to be what? By so-called UFOs, man. They're going to be saved by UAPs, as they're being called now. You know, those so-called flying saucers. That's the method by which they're going to be saved. And that's going to be, to everyone, they're going to be, like, the eyes are going to be popping out of their head. That's why it's basically in every manner of which the salvation out of Egypt happened, this one's going to outdo him. And that means the destruction as well, because the plagues, just like the way you look at things now as well. Like, people think everything's all fine and dandy. It's like the implications of Brexit coming in. You've got, this is the thing, it's still technically, just about, summer just ended. So it's still kind of winding down. It's not chilly like that. But we're already in an energy crisis where it's like a lot of people are now paying way more and the prices are going to go up. They even said with petrol, they might have to start limiting how much people can even buy at the pump. Because people will be trying to come in. Yeah. Oh yeah, they started. But that going like basically nationwide wouldn't be surprising, because you already had with when everyone was panic buying, how they were saying, okay, you can only buy one of X, Y, and Z. You can buy two of these. You can buy 2 bottles of water. You can buy 1 hand sanitizer, etc. It's going to be like, okay, you can buy X amount of gallons of or whatever of fuel, and then hey, it's going to start getting peaked. And that's the thing as well. They even like workers. That's another thing. That's something you've been hearing about all summer. They said like the amount of workers in a variety of fields have been thinned out, because they've all fucked off back to Europe. Because the UK, they're like, I ain't really sure how this shit's going. Yeah.
That's why you have the issue you have right now. Petrol, as well as the food supply.
Because there ain't enough people to drive it. And this is an island nation as well. So those things, there's a lot of resources that need to come in from overseas, or you're going to get shortages. And you're already getting shortages. So that's how peak it is. And this is the thing, is people are paying, they're not watching the news, man. They don't know what's on the news. What they know is the Met Gala. They know the memes that were getting made of the Met Gala on Twitter. They know whatever the latest things that happen in entertainment, whatever albums just dropped, whatever movies are coming out. These guys will know every detail about that. But then for what's going on in the world, they're willingly just blinding themselves. They ain't looking to deal with that shit. The slightest. It says what? But the Lord Yahweh liveth, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their lands that I gave unto their fathers. Yeah, so this is basically going to be a judgment that's going to completely cover in significance and scale the salvation from Egypt, man.
Let me read this. Isaiah 45 and 14. God says, the Lord Yahweh, the labor of Egypt
and the merchandise of Ethiopia, and of the Sabians, men of stature, shall come over unto thee, and they shall be thine. They shall come after thee, in chains they shall come over, and they shall fall down unto thee. They shall make supplication unto thee, saying, Surely the Most High is in thee, and there is none else, there is no power. Verily thou art a power that hidest thyself, O power of Israel, the Savior. And that's only what's going to happen. People going to, well, when the Lord reveals himself, when everything manifests according to the word that's in the Bible, all right, then everyone, really that's going to happen when Israel's on the earth, enslaving all the nations, basically establishing the kingdom of heaven. Then everyone's going to realize that, wow, it really was here, but we didn't take no heed to it, all right? And that's why that goes into what we're reading in Jeremiah about the Lord living, that's the same thing. They're going to acknowledge that there's a power in Israel, and they're going to actually acknowledge that this destruction was not prophesied, all right? But right now, you know, you have these men headed by the apostles of great millstone that have made a spectacle onto the earth, onto the world, basically. And a lot of people are none the wiser, all right? They're going to see us men doing this work, and it's going to go over their heads, right? And really, it's because the Heavenly Father blinded them much of the time of when Yahweh Shai makes his revealing, all right, and only reveals himself to the whole world, okay? Because all these things that are written inside the Bible, they're coming to pass right now. That's why you got the government has labeled this winter, the winter of discontent. These lot are now naming seasons like it's a bloody movie premiere, man. Game of Thrones or something, like a new season release. Because why? Because they're basically this is on the tangible side of things, on the the third dimension side of things. It's the spirit manifesting itself to let people know that this is the end, man. Right? Winter of discontent. How they know that? Right? Now you're having it basically compound with going into the pandemic, dealing with this virus right now, alright? And the vaccinations and whatnot, alright? Basic limiting the movement of people within the cities and various places. Over in I can't remember, I read the article earlier on. I didn't read the article, I saw the title. I believe it's in America. One of the states is saying that they shouldn't allow no one to work that isn't vaccinated, basically. Alright? One of them, I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically that's what's going on. So you're having that happen, but at the same time you're having great shortages in supplies. So you're gonna have right now, ever since the onset of Brexit as well, there's like going into the pharmaceutical industry, there's about a third or 2/3 of medicine that's imported from the EU. Alright? So everyone's waiting to see the shit. Huh?
People were stacking medicine.
Yeah.
So I remember when they said like, Brexit's about to happen, blah 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 blah. Then yeah, people were jumping on it. People are like, oh shit, okay, they were stacking medicine, but those things have expiry dates. Those things only run for like you might have a year's worth. After that year, then you're gonna have to start dealing with whatever the import process is. And that's when it gets peak. That's the thing is, people really weren't they weren't aware of just how many things really go right. And that's where it is. Other side. Jeremiah 51 6 says, flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord Yahweh's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of the wine, therefore the nations are mad. Yeah,
that's why you go ahead, man.
Yeah, that Babylon juice has been dashed over the whole earth, man. Everyone's been basically indoctrinated into the system, into this way of life that's mainly been promoted and pushed out by America, man. America's been that main signal booster because they've had the industries like a lot of the musical industry, the film industry, a lot of the culture, even advertisements. A lot of these things come from America, and then that's pushed out onto the rest of the world. And then everyone basically is in that mindset. They're wandering after the beast, man. They're all in war.
It's funny, I watched a video and the guy was talking about the Western world and he showed a map and had Australia highlighted as part of the Western world.
Right.
And I thought, no, it ain't the Western world. It's the white man. Alright? It's the Western world. I mean, the folk white, the Edomite world.
Yeah.
So basically this is something that if you would have, if someone would have been wise enough to look at the map and basically see that you have Australia on the eastern side of the hemisphere, basically, you would have understood that, wait, hold on, why are you calling it the Western world if Australia's down there southwest, southeast of the map? But the reality is that it's a total white man's world, alright? But he's doing it for his guys that he don't want to know that that's really where it is. But hopefully he runs the world. Right? Anyone that has a clue would understand that. Now, with that being said, hey, he's dictating the pace of everything around the world. And that's why when they talk about, for example, they say like, oh yeah, pollution, we're polluting the earth too much. No, you control the world. You're the one that dictates all these things, and you're polluting the world. Alright?
You've been making that's a lot of these different what do you call it, different issues of the world, especially the environmental issues. These are things that have been highlighted. Like people would have done research and found out, using all this plastic negatively impacts blah 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 back in the 60s and 70s, man. A lot of these things have been known for a while. It's just they were willingly just left because why? Money. That's why it's like now everyone's like when plastic was the money maker, everyone was on it, and then now they get to push like, okay, we're being environmentally conscious, and they can charge money for plastic bags, they can sell bags of life. They'll instead have like, okay, now we've shifted our business to do biodegradable plastics or whatever the hell, where it's like they're still able to make money off it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There's a lot of industries. Like you see with cars, they it was known they were polluting all kinds of toxic fumes coming out of the cars. So then instead they're like, okay, we're gonna, well, it's like CO2 emissions. Like they're charging you for CO2, or you have to pay carbon tax. All these different things. Everything links up to making
They're
money.
actually going to help the environment.
It's still charging people. They ain't gonna be like, okay, fine, fuck it, we need to do it.
It's more like a thing of like, well, I guess I'm going to have to incur that cost among everything. You know, with my petrol fees, my insurance, all those other taxes, all the other costs and fees that are required to be a driver. But the reality is, this man is just making money. He don't care about the environment. Now even this thing going on right now with the petrol shortage in the UK, right? This is an incentive to really push electronic cars to the people, right? But even with that, everything has a hidden agenda. There's a how can I word it? There's a hidden agenda behind all of this stuff, man. Alright? Because electric cars, anyway, it will give way for ubiquitous technology, tracking and tracing, which only leads to what? The MOTB, right? So all these different things, the hybrid cars, all this type of stuff, we're yet to see what will fall out from it. So we know who roles lead to the chip, basically.
A few more. Verse 8. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go every one into his own country. Yeah, we would have healed Babylon. Said what? How for her take balm for her? Basically, through whichever means are available, they're trying to sustain this system. Basically, keep this thing going. And that's really what's been with this system. For the longest, basically, it's been a thing like, hey, look, we're trying to prolong this system and get it on plan as long as possible. When you deal with the end of Esau, 8 Edom's reign, then it's what? It's basically the rising of Jacob, of Israel's reign. That's why it's such a contention to them be like, they're trying to be, okay, we ain't trying to go down. We're going to try and cement ours for all time. But what? It said, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. It's impossibility to heal Babylon. That's not something that can be done. It says, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. The Lord Yahweh brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare Zion in Zion the work of Yahweh our power. Yeah, so the judgment for America, that's the thing, is all this attempted basically methods and manners by which they're trying to keep America running as a thing. It's only going to run up to a certain point. Because that's the thing, is you go to Job, it says what? Set the bounds, you cannot pass. There's a limit, man. There's a point that's been set. It's like if they, try and go beyond it, it's a myth. It ain't gonna happen. They ain't gonna be able to do anything. Everything's bound by prophecy. Everything's bound by the word of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. And that's why it's like what Esau's doing is within the word. He's doing what he's meant to be doing. But that's why it's trusting in Babylon, and that's the thing. Everyone else is they don't have the same. They're not on the same level of what the elites are seeing. The guys on the top, they know what's going down. These guys, that's why they have it. And that's why you see, they ain't saying like just any motherfucker can go into space. They made the point, they said it's the billionaires going into space. Jeff Bezos, what's his name, Richard Branson, and they're saying, what's his name, Elon Musk as well. And they're like, oh, why has Elon not gone up there yet? But what, it's the guys with multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies flying up into space, and basically they're the ones that are going to be able to, they're going to have that liberty to escape, to flee that far. But for the guys on the bottom, they're just going to be caught. They're going to be caught in the meat grinder, man. They're going to be up in the mix. They ain't going to be the escape for them. They're thinking, well, what can they do? That's why you're seeing in they'll try and flee by boat, by car, by whatever. Those methods are going to be cut off.
Micah 2:10, rise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with the sword of nothing. So basically, this war that we're pressing in, as a brother mentioned or read, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Basically, this whole system is designed to kill everything within it, alright? And it's quite fitting. Proverbs 16 chapter tells you what? The evil was created from, the wicked was created from their evil, basically. And ultimately that damn evil is going to be, it's going to basically meet its climax at time of Jacob's trouble. Out of temptation we shall come to tempt all that dwell upon the earth. Alright? This devil is basically in a power seat for the main reason of providing that hour of temptation. Because in him attempting to seal his rulership on this earth, he's going to make it as to where everyone is tempted. And many people ain't going to see it as a big temptation. They're just going to see it as this, yeah, okay, I've got to do this, all right, let me do it. Reason why, they're not, because, they're being deceived. It's going to go over their head, all of the things about, okay, well, why aren't you getting vaccinated? Why aren't you doing this? All right? It's going to go over their head. They're not even going to think of it. They're not going to scrutinize it.
And that's the thing. They've stigma. A lot of things have just been stigmatized as negative. That's why it's like they said, oh, it's just what's the word? Conspiracy theorists. They'll say, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. And that's the thing. It's funny as hell because you consider, even if you there's a lot of these conspiracy theories where those things turned out to be true. So I remember Pizzagate came out, they're like, oh, the pedophile rings and blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is just crazy. This is insane talk. Why do you think? Then lo and behold, those things get revealed as happening. And everyone's like, oh, I'm so upset, I'm so upset, I'm so, oh. And then, that you know, like, but people didn't put two and two together. And that's the thing, is like, as soon as one of these things, well, like, as soon as it gets revealed, oh, your government has lied to you, and multiple times, and will continue to do so, you should then think, okay, what else are they lying about? But people don't put two and two, they don't get to that step. Because why? For you to then be like, okay, so, you know, for you to get to the step of, okay, so what else are they lying to me about? Like, then you have to be like, oh, wow. Like, then the vulnerability kicks in. You realize those with power can influence you in however, whichever ways they desire, which they still can.
That's what's being done right now. That's why a lot of people are being manipulated as it stands right now. But they've got news fatigue, as they say. To the point where it's like, you know what? Most of the people, like even an individual I was working with, was speaking about the vaccine, kind of said like, yeah, they're saying that you need to have this to be able to do X, Y, and Z. She just said there was no, you know, processing of, okay, what's the pros and cons? There was no real filtering it through their mindset. You know what I mean? And what could happen, what are the possibilities, all this kind of stuff. Because it was as simple as like, look, I need to enjoy my life, so I'm just going to do it every day. Right?
Yeah. That's like the default kind of experience people are been convinced they should have, is that, you know, they're just there to have a good time and enjoy themselves. Which, you know, in that mindset, they're then just thinking like, yo, okay, well, I'll do whatever needs to get done just so I can continue having a good time and maximizing my enjoyment. But then the downside of that is, well, I said the downside, the you know, the fatal flaw in that is everything ain't going to be rainbows and cotton candy all the time. And that's why it's like when hard times come, people start fucking offing themselves, man. They're so unprepared for like, oh, some form of hardship. A lot of people they don't even realize like if they're like any form of struggle, that they've got no experience with any kind of hardship, to where when it comes, they're just gonna fold. And that's why it's like the dangling the thread of like, okay, yeah, you just do this, everything's gonna be cool. Most people jumped on it.
They don't realize they're chasing their tail.
when
I was gonna say, you can't catch your tail, can you? Yeah.
Because with what you call it, with like the so-called peace that's been offered, it's that's only it's conditional and it's temporary. Because we'll never hit a threshold of being enough, and it never will.
Rise you in the path on your rest, hopefully this takes about what you do. And that reminds me of what Yahweh Shai says. They that lose their life shall save it, and they that seek to save their lives shall lose their life. Because basically, you're going to be at a loss in doing all the things you think you need to do to secure, you know, life as you know it upon this earth. Because basically, it's going to... People don't realize how much they're being enslaved by the system that's presently ruling over the earth. Right? They don't have no form of liberty. Liberty is something that's going out the window. Right?
And now it's like they don't even want it. They're basically willing to just be like, oh, fuck it. That's what has to be done. That's what has to be done. Talking to one guy in the world, it was like one other guy been telling him about the chip. A guy, you know, he's in the world. He keeps up with the conspiracy theory kind of side of things. So he was telling them about, oh, you know, they're going to be looking to get chips in you soon. then he was just like, man, I'll be glad if they give you that shit, man. And I was just like, yeah. I was like, well, that's because for you, it's just like, you're like, everything, you're just looking to enjoy life. Like, there's no consequence to it. You're not thinking about things on a grander scale. And as well, it's like, you're not really thinking about, like, society, where it's going, and like, the kind of, like, where that mindset leads. Because then it's like, it's what you call it, a slow increase in intensity, like the frog in the pot. When you have the frog in the pot, when it's boiling hot straight away, you dash them and they'll jump out. If you slowly turn the heat up, then they'll just be, oh, it's a nice pot. And then before they know it, they're fucking cooked. And that's the same thing. Because it's like, going back to before the pandemic, then it was, I remember when they were saying like, oh, but when it first started, they were saying, oh yeah, I bet it gets to the point where they're going to be looking to put chips in. Then the articles come out, and then people are like, oh no, you're exaggerating, it's conspiracy theories, blah, blah, blah. Then articles come out with the same thing being said in it. And then they're like, oh, well, yeah, I don't really care.
Well, a lot of people haven't been following what's going on with the US Marines. Because they came out and they said that they wanted all the US Marines to basically take what did they say? They wanted to take a vaccine, basically. But the form of vaccine they were going to have was an implant, like mesh that would go under their skin, like RFID technology, where it would detect if you had any form of COVID in your blood, and it would alert your immune. Now, they basically came out, what's come out recently under the radar with that, is that they say it's mandatory that all Marines now take the vaccination. Oh, the whole US Army. Okay. So they changed it. So they said the whole US Army.
With the army, they said it before. It was they tried to push it before, but then because of what happened with, I think it was SARS, when they took the SARS that match before, it was they had to push on them early. Then like hundreds of people were dying from it. So then from then they said they had it where the army doesn't have to take anything that's not in green lit. So now, that's why as soon as it got green lit, like September, whatever day was, I can't remember exactly. It was in like mid-September or something. They green lit, then it was like straight away the army was like, okay, you got like 5 weeks or whatever to get it. Because that was basically the line already. And I think they said it was already like 70% or something that had already got their shots in the US Army. But now it's mandatory for everyone to get it. And that's why it's like, yeah. that's you know, it's gonna get pushed through the process of time. And that's the thing as well. It's like a lot of places where they're making it mandatory, more or less most people take it. Because I think Australia as well, that was the main reason they're still in lockdown. Because their rates of how many people have got the shots, it's too low. They said it was like 10% or something. And outside of most places have all got it. But then even with most new cases, people that have already taken the shots, but they're still getting a new variant or whatever. That's why it's nothing's going to be enough.
Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10. Never trust thy enemy, for like an iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go couch, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass. And thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, if he seek to take thy seat. It's the same kind of noise is that. Like, it sounds like someone's hitting on like a drum machine with loads of random sounds. Verse 12, set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words and be quick therewith. Who will be a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts? Right? And this is about him.
What's saying? Who pity a charm? Yeah, someone's spending their day like playing with a snake, making the snake like do certain tricks. Then afterwards you find out the guy got a deadly venomous bite. No one, no one's gonna have mercy. That's the thing. It's even for like with the mandatory max compensation. Anyone that says, oh, it's basically being pushed is completely unreasonable for people that have any form of doubt, despite having a track record that says to the contrary. There's been various times where things have been green-lit, and then later on there's been issues. And there's been plenty of times where there's been malicious intent against the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man, the Israelites.
Even against, and you got to deal with Esau, man. Esau don't even give a flying toss about his own, man. Alright? It's indiscriminate with this whole, because remember, he's saying he wants to keep, when you go to the Georgia Guidestones, what does it say? It says, the first commandment, which is a play on the 10 commandments, it says that to maintain perfect balance in humanity by having a population under 500, at 500 million, right? Now there's presently 8 billion people upon the earth, 8 odd. That's a lot of death that needs to happen. And you think there ain't no Edomites they want to kill? Hell yeah, they're going to kill their own. So that gives you an idea of how wicked this man is. Let me read this to drive home the point. Proverbs 12 and 10. A righteous man regards the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. And the max seek the vaccination seek the tender mercy of the wicked. Alright, they're saying that, look, take this, it'll help you get your fight with the pandemic. Right? That's a tender mercy. And the Bible's telling you plainly that the tender mercies of the wicked are true. So this man, this is why God, this word is precious, man. Because he's letting you know that, hey, don't go there, man. Because that man, he ain't, that little tender mercy he's trying to show you has cruel and wicked intent behind it. Alright? You know what I'm saying?
Isaiah 30:1. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. Yeah, that's Jacob's top of the list. Doing the utmost, whatever Esau throws out, they'll be down with, and then it's like really what? Let's say adding sin to sin. And that's really what they're doing. They're heaping more judgments, more unrighteousness on themselves. And that's the thing is the reason Jake's in the scenario they're in the first place is because of their conduct. They've been going the hell up. So then, as such, what? Okay, so what's the resolution for that? The resolution isn't to compound yourself in it. But that's what Jake is doing, man. They're basically in a lot of Jake, the majority of Jake in the mindset where they're just looking to they're looking to whatever so-called white man comes out with, that's what we run with. And hey, you can have that mindset, but see where it leads you, man. In Revelation, it makes it plain. Them judgments, you're going to be heaping them on yourself. The walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Yeah, trusting in the shadow of Egypt, man. Trusting in bondage, trusting in oppression. That's really what Jake has been doing for the longest. They're still to this day trying to dredge up within, you know, the places they've been taken captive, the places where places have been built up off the back of the destruction of the people, going there and thinking, okay, I'm hold a cup. When really it's the whole system is itself. Is the baseline of it is not about uplifting you. It's about uplifting the so-called white man. That's the main benefactor of the system. And that's why. Therefore, shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and your trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. That's really it. This place is chiefly just pure confusion. So then what? Going into confusion, try and make sense of what's going down. Of course you're going to be left in a mess. That's why by and large, Jake don't know what the hell's going on. They're still stuck on the identity of being so-called black or African American. They don't have the foundation to go back to. If you don't know you're an Israelite, then you're not even going to be able to line up why you're going through what you're going through. And that's really how a lot of this goes down. They're basically just they're maneuvering within these systems, and then they're getting the short end of the stick. And then they're just thinking like, yo, why is that so? But you're not going to be able to put the pieces together. Because if you don't put the pieces,